that, getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 5 of this season, coming to you today from Road Atlanta. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, we're here at Road Atlanta, which is a staple of iRacing, but running on a slightly different configuration, what I like to call the interesting looking chicken nugget on the iRacing platform, the Road Atlanta short configuration, cutting off the back half of the circuit and a decent chunk of the back straightaway. May seem like a kooky idea, but this track can actually put on some good racing, so we're expecting certainly unique to be the word of the day, but probably some excitement thrown in the midst as well.
Yeah, so it's a really fast layout, and yeah, it does look like it's as Father Guido said before the broadcast. It's a very weird shaped oval, but I mean it's with the exception of our turn, our little chicane down here, which is now because of the different configurations, turn 7 and 8 as opposed to 10A and 10B. As we see a car just trying to go into the corner and just missed it a little bit. That's Josh Wilkie. That's our buddy. We'll pick on him later for that. Oh, and then that as well. Josh. Anyway, so we didn't even get a chance to commentator curse him already. He just did it on his own this time. So trying to make things a little more efficient around here. So yeah, looking forward to a really good race. Like I said, it's going to be a very quick race because it's a 1 minute lap around here, more or less, and you can see the entire field, with the exception of Dan Witzak, who hasn't set a time yet, covered by 1.3 seconds. So that just tells you that the field is going to be very compressed here, and it's going to make for some very exciting racing, I think.
Yeah, it's been a super exciting and closely contested season as well. So really just the order of the season here in round number 5 of the championship. And speaking of the closeness of the season, let's take a look at the championship point standings as we head off into the 5th round of this season. We'll start off as usual with Spec 1, where even though we've had 4 different winners in the first 4 rounds, it's still Maurizio Nazelli up at the top, grabbed the win at Sebring in rather dominating fashion for week number 2. And outside of a couple of hiccups every now and then, he's still been rather quick thus far this season. Holds on to 368 points as his tally right now. Mikey Pollard, his main championship rival thus far, slotted in P2 at 347 points. Richard Harwood is slotted in 3rd at 284. A little bit farther back from him is Michael McConnell, with Christopher Cash, your current provisional pole sitter, rounding at your top 5 in Spec 1. We'll take a look now at Spec 2, where really the storyline thus far this season has been veterans versus rookies. It's Kevin Adrian holding on to the championship points lead right now, already has 1 win thus far this season at Sebring in Spec 2. However, Dmitry Lukhanov broke through with his 2nd win, not only this season, but in a row at Bathurst 1 week ago, is slotted in P2, a little bit farther back from Adrian and just barely in front of Paul Jackson, slotted in 3rd, Peterson Rocha, and Alexander Gorson, who's right in front of his old pal Josh Wilkie. Those were the 2 that just came to blows under the bridge a few moments ago, rounding out your top 6 as it worked out there with me reading them out in Spec 2. Now we'll take a look at Masters, where even though Jörg Mani has gotten multiple wins, he's been a little bit spotty in terms of attendance thus far this season. So Antonio Reese, with 1 win up to this point, that coming in the season opening round at Alton Park, is your current championship points leader in Masters. 269 points is his tally. Jeff Webker and Jörg Mani have their own low battle to talk about. Only 4 points separating those 2. Series admin Stevie Ray slotted in 4th with Michael Nelson, rounding out your top 5 in Masters. Very competitive all throughout this series. It's been a great season up to this point. Look to keep that momentum rolling as we head off into the 2nd third of this season. And Charles, we're thinking this race is going to be very, very unique, so these drivers may have to pay attention to the keys this week.
Well, let's see how good I do today. Keys to the race day. Curbs, we always talk about the curbs here at Road Atlanta. They're just deadly. It doesn't matter what car you're in; they'll upset the best handling cars on the surface. So you just have to kind of deal with them, and it's just best to avoid them if at all possible. Trouble spots for today are going to be turn 1, as we're watching here, with the number 8 car, the Enjoiner, coming up into turn 2 there. Just real easy to get wide, get off on that curb or into the grass, and then you're in for a ride. And then finally, patience is going to be your path forward today. Just keep the car in the middle of the track, run your clean lines, run at 95%. You're probably going to end up with a good result, as people around you are doing things that probably is going to get them in trouble. So be patient today and just work forward.
And thank you very much, Charles, for the keys to this race. And as we're still in qualifying, let's do an on-board lap of the man himself, Stevie Ray, and hope that he doesn't spin or stops on the side of the road. Heading off into turn number 1, you just mentioned it a few moments ago, Charles. Probably the most menacing turn 1 in all of American motorsports, as far as I'm concerned. Super quick, super challenging. Many a racer have been caught out by that over the years. Now all through the S's, turns 2, 3, now through 4. Down the hill, if you're in the middle of a pack in a GT3 race, it's not a very good section to head through, but here in these FF 1600s, it's not a bed of roses either. Now you got this very old asphalt that you're running off here through the shortcut. The dogleg detour that we take through 5 and 6, getting spat out onto the back straightaway now, down into what's usually the turn 10 chicane. It's going to be the 7 and 8 chicane here for this broadcast. Down the gears and on the brakes, you're going to go try and kiss these apexes as best as you can and utilize the curbs and maybe do a little bit of lawn mowing in the process. Now under the bridge, you're going to go. Steve, you're going to give us a nice little idea as to what the pit lane entry is, but you get the idea for, I guess I'll work out for 90% of the lap. That was the onboard lap with Stevie Ray. As we move on to the qualifying session, we'll reel that back a little bit. Heading off through the turn number 7 and 8 chicane. Don't want to worry about cars trying to rejoin the racetrack at a 90-degree angle. Under the bridge, you're going to go through turn number 9 and now into the final corner of turn number 10. That's an onboard lap with Felix Samoas, mainly Stevie Way with help from Felix right towards the very end. As Felix is your current provisional pole sitter right now, wasn't able to improve on that last lap, but a 101.072. Pretty darn good lap time from Felix.
Yeah, really good lap time. As you see, he's got himself it's not an insurmountable advantage by any stretch of imagination. Less than 0.04 of a second to Chris Cash. But yeah, you're seeing just what the lap times are going to be like. 1.16 back to the last qualifier, Paul Jackson. Dan Witzak is, I can't tell if he's in the service or not. He is scheduled to, or he was signed up to run the race, but I don't think he's put on any laps as of yet. So don't know if he's just planning on pit starting today and starting from the back, or if he's maybe just having trouble with his connectivity today and is not going to be able to race. So we're on board here with David Lehman, the very nice Elf livery. That's an old F1 style car, and so because I'm an American and I don't know F1 history, somebody else can tell me which one it is. Who's that? You say Williams? Okay, all right. So one of the old Williams liveries. So we'll with the little bats and cannon logos on the side. So very nice looking livery. As we're still running through here with about a minute and a half left in qualifying. Lukanov top of the Spec 2 with a P6 overall, so having himself quite a good qualifying run. He's got several car advantage over Wilkie, who is in the second in Spec 2 in P11. So, but once again, the lap times, you're only talking about 1/10 and a half separating those two cars as far as times are concerned.
Yeah, super, super close. I mean, it's razor-thin margins. This may not be the longest racetrack, frankly. It's probably the shortest thus far this season at 1.76 miles. It's super, super short, this. But you have got some very close competition, even by the short standards of this racetrack. Absolutely awesome to see the level of competition week in and week out here in the Weekend Warriors world. And we're now within the final 30 seconds of this qualifying session. Nazelli, now your provisional pole sitter. Samoa is slotted in P2. Christopher Cashany and Joyner round at your first two rows as it stands currently. David Lehman, top of the qualifiers in the Masters category as it stands right now. Dmitry Lukanov holding on to the Spec 2 pole. Here's his main championship rival in class. It's Kevin Adrian, slotted in a comparatively disappointing P15. Adrian going to have to take a big swing at things, as this will be his final lap with time slowly but surely ticking down. A reminder, folks, if you start your final lap with even 1 second left on the clock, you can have another opportunity. Doesn't matter, but if you cross that line after the checkered flag's out, you're done. You don't have any other attempts. Jason Chen looking to set in a good lap time. Saw him purple in the first sector, but he actually pulls into pit lane, so that'll do it from him in the number 25 car. Your reigning Spec 2 champion will start this race in 10th. Good look at Felix Samoas. Will he be able to jump up to the pole? He will not, although he certainly got close to improving, only 0.3 of a second off of his previous best time. Ian Anderson improves with a pretty nice time to jump his way up into a 1:01.960. So we'd usually say a driver starting down 27th would be a couple of seconds off, not 9/10.
No, exactly right. It's crazy how close this is. I wanted to throw, we rode on board with Stevie Ray, then Felix Samoas for our lap around the track. Normally we use our, if we have somebody who sponsored today's race, we'll use them, either them to do the driver lap. But today's sponsor is Brad Cathcart, longtime Weekend Warriors driver, and always is around. But today, not running, but did sponsor the race, and that's what makes this community so great. Is if you're looking for sponsorship, even the drivers will come in and pitch in and lend a hand, and so it's always great to see. So thanks, Brad, for sponsoring today's race, even though you're not competing.
Yeah, we absolutely love to see it here in the Weekend Warriors. Brad Cathcart, Weekend Warriors driver through and through, and also a driver in XSLR that you can catch sporadically on Sundays here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We'll not pay attention to what happened during last week's broadcast at USA International Speedway as we switch our attention from the qualifying session into this race here today. I think it may be about high time, though. Take a look at the starting grid for today's race at Road Atlanta. Maurizio Nazelli going to start this race from the pole position. Felix Samoa is set to join him on the front row. P3 is going to be Christopher Cash. Alongside him on row number 2 will be Ian Joyner. And then right behind is David Lehman, your Masters pole sitter, alongside Dmitry Lukanov, your Spec 2 pole sitter. Jurek Mani will start this race in 7th. Alongside him will be Soren Garrett. Nick Sigley will start this race in 9th, with Jason Chen rounding out our top 10.
Yep, Josh Wilkie is going to start in 11th. Andrew Love starts outside of row 6 in 12th. Alexander Gorson starting 13th. Peter Maddox starts 14th. Kevin Adrian will start in P15 alongside Alan DeGassis in 16th. Cesare Manzato will start in 17th alongside Antonio Reese. Holconio starts in 18th. Richard Hardwood starts in 19th. Chris Murakami starting in 20th. Tortello starts in 21st. The boss Stevie Ray starting in 22nd. Daniel Verone starts in 23rd. Michael McConnell will start in 24th. Jeff Lupker starting in P25. Jim Brewster starting in P26. Ian Anderson in 27th. Michael Nelson outside row 14 and 28th. Paul Jackson starting in P29. And Dan Witzak, if he makes the grid, will start in P30, and that is your 30-car starting grid. And we are ready to get this race going.
Yeah, we were able to get through all of it before any cars rolled off on the pace lap. So we have a bit of time here to kind of brace ourselves for whatever this race is going to be. Of course, a pit stop's probably going to be important. The pit entry here at Road Atlanta, I would say probably high up in the top 10, top 5, or maybe even top 3 in terms of dangerous pit entries in big auto racing. It is super sketchy heading your way through there. That pit lane speed limit line comes out of absolutely nowhere, and plus with a downhill braking zone to hit that line, very easy to pick up a pit lane speeding penalty.
Yeah, it's not straight entry. It's got a couple little bends in it, and as you said, downhill braking into to the pit entry cones. It is very difficult, and then you've got a little bend. Actually, once you get past the cones, to get onto the pit lane itself, and then pit exit is almost directly out in the run up between turn 1 exit and turn 2 entry. So you're going to be flowing back out into race traffic, and that makes things a little difficult there. As you see it on board from the rear shot of Maurizio Nazelli's car, you can see the pit exit. And I will say that's also a very good place to sit and watch the races here, just because I spent about 2 hours there when Petit Le Mans, just sitting there watching the cars working their way in and through in and out of the pits. So great spot to watch a race. So yeah, it's going to be, obviously you want to get the tires up. This first turn 1 is going to be a little difficult because of the cold tires, cold brakes. You really need to have a lot of grip through turn 1 to go through there successfully with any speed. So probably a little slow coming up through there, and maybe some contact amongst the cars as they try and get settled in.
Yeah, so just making it through the first lap clean, probably going to be at the top of the agenda for all of these racers up and down the field. Doesn't matter whether you're starting at the back or the front or all the way in the middle. Gonna be a tough race. Gonna be a tough start to this race. Just keep it clean at the start, and you may be smooth sailing for the race that lies ahead. We'll briefly touch on the talking points leaving qualifying. Maurizio Nazelli grabbing his 4th Spec 1 pole position thus far this season. Dmitry Lukanov grabbing his 3rd in a row, as David Lehman grabbing his 1st pole position in the Weekend Warriors World. As here we go, the green flag's that the drivers are on their way, and we're racing at Road Atlanta here today. Good start there from Maurizio Nazelli. Gonna try and lead him off down into turn number 1, as Samoa's feeling a bit of pressure from Christopher Cash as he heads his way down off into turn number 1. Looking all throughout this field, trying to make sure everybody can get through clean. That's a driver with a bit of a wiggle, heading off through turn number 1. Dropping down off the road is Richard Harwood. He's gonna hope to try and rejoin in that number 28 car without any further incident. Up in the front though, Felix Samoa is able to shake off that challenge from Christopher Cash like a bad case of the fleas, and he's now, oh no, that's a spin contact being made as they head their way off through the S's. That right there was Soren Garrett with a wild trip off into the dirt.
Yeah, that was, I was about to come in and say that we had a really good start there. Only one car taking it wide through 1, but then you saw the issues there going through the S's and Garrett's going sideways. I'm sure we'll get a replay of that here in short order. So we really had 2 cars drop off the pace just a little bit on the in the first lap, but everybody else doing a really good job keeping it all clean.
Yeah, that was an absolute code brown moment for Jason Chen, who I believe was the first driver to see that spinning car of Garrett's right in front. Garrett's has decided to call it a day, the first retirement from this race. I got to imagine what resulted in that. It's probably a rather sickening collision with the wall. Hey, not the first time we've seen some drama heading off through that part of the racetrack here at Road Atlanta. Let's look at Tortello trying to rally his way on the outside of turn number 1. Not going to work out. He off the berm, hit the dirt, and he's now going to drop down like a stone thrown into a pond. Tello going to drop down outside the top 25. I think there's been some more drama for him as he's continuing to fall through the running order, plummet through even. He's now down to last. Tortello, top running racer over in the Formula V Weekend Warriors, actually scored a win yesterday here on Slow Motion Broadcasting out of Ultraslaven in the rain in that series. Not able to get a good start here at Road Atlanta as he's massively on the back foot, even though we're not even at the end of lap 2.
Yeah, and we'll see, get a replay here. Here's Garrett's as we're working our way through the S's and going in, and just a little too much the curb on the right-hand side, and you see the rear just come around. Not anything you could do about that, and just collected the wall. I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, definitely some serious damage to that car. And then we're going to ride on board with Tortello coming through turn 10. The final corner here, and getting that run a little bit wide down the front straight, gets it back onto the track. Of course, losing a little bit of pace there, and just is stuck out on the wide side and just can't carry the speed out there, and is going to, as you said, rally up the hill out of turn 1 up through 2 and 3, and he's going to rejoin eventually. Is he going to have to take the there we go. Yeah, even trying to get back on the track, you see the car just not wanting to comply as he's trying to get just back into the groove, and falls all the way back to the back of the pack. So he's going to be in 28th, but, he's in 26 currently. But, still early days, and he's got some good pace in that car. So he'll be able to make up some spots here, as we only have 3 real gaps over a second, and 2 of them are just 1.1 or less. So you see the group starting to the group really just staying together, and my guess is the fuel saving for the front group has already started.
So we'll have to see if these drivers are angling towards that strategy a little bit later on, as Daniel Verone dropping down the running order. He's got to fall behind Tortello, who after rejoining the track behind Paul Jackson, slotted down in P28, has been able to make his way up to 25th, as here was a moment that just befell Verone a few moments ago as we follow him heading down into turn number 1. He's got Michael McConnell on the inside of him, spooked him wide, and there you can see him running off the track. He was able to hang on to it, bit of a sideways snap as he headed his way around there, but Verone able to, no, contact being made. Is that himself and Alan DeGassis? No, that was not DeGassis, my apologies. No. That right there was Michael Nelson.
Yeah, and just wheel-to-wheel contact. Okay. Just we get some technical difficulties here, and we're just continue on. So are we going to a break? Is that what you're saying? All right. So folks, hang in there, and we're going to come back as we get our technical issues sorted out here. We'll be right back on board here with the rest of this race from the Weekend Warriors in just a couple of minutes.
See, unfortunately, the drivers aren't the only things that are crashing. Sorry about that, folks. We're back here on slow motion broadcasting for round number 5 of the Formula 4 Weekend Warriors. We apologize about that little blip. We'll keep you up to speed on everything that's been going on over the past few moments. This pack up at the front, 5 cars strong with Nazelli, your Spec 1 leader, at the front of it, and David Lehman, your top running competitor in the Masters category, at the tail end of it. They've broken off into their own little battle as the battling going on right behind with the likes of Jurg Mani, Dmitry Lukinov, Jason Chen, Josh Wilkie, and others. Some important battles there in the Spec 2 category, a little bit farther behind these racers. As we have had some drama involving Tortullo. He's went off the circuit and just decided to cut his losses and call it a day. So Tor, unfortunately, going to be the second retirement from this race after some drama with Soren Garrett a little bit earlier on here. But to touch on the point that you were raising a few moments ago, Charles, about the potential fuel saving here, that's a very good point, because this racetrack, when we get into the ones that are a bit more draft heavy, that can usually be a good opportunity to do a heck of a lot of fuel saving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the guys up front are probably looking to extend this opening run a little bit longer with a 1 second, 1 minute lap. Essentially, we're gonna have almost 40 laps in this race. And it's just going to be one of those where if we can get it, if you can get it to where you're in the last, 5 minutes or so, that last stop is going to be very, very, very short. I mean, you're talking about maybe 5 seconds of fuel to get to the end. So I'm sure they're already kind of looking at that and working the calculations and the numbers out, trying to figure out what's going to be the best strategy here. And, it wouldn't surprise me that we have a couple of people that come in maybe early for an undercut. I don't know how that's going to work. This track, I think you could probably make it work fairly decently, because there's plenty of, it's wide enough that you can make some moves to get around maybe some slower cars, but the gaps between these cars are not that much. So having enough speed to be able to make overtakes might not be the best situation. So I think everybody's going to try and run as long as they can before they come in and get this stop done.
Yeah, sometimes we get these races where the pit stops feel a bit more like a nuisance than anything else for these racers. They're just basically having to sit there and be like, okay, let me just get this taken care of. I have to come into the pits at some point so I can make it to the end and not get disqualified. And that's Peter Maddox. He spins coming out of turn number 7 into turn 8 through the chicane, and around he's going to go. They've made slight contact with the wall. Certainly went off the circuit as he nearly comes to blows with Michael McConnell trying to rejoin the racetrack and build up the speed. Going to exit out in the midst of that battle right there involving himself, McConnell, Brewster, and the likes of Jeff Wubker and Daniel Verone involved in that as well. I think I briefly saw a driver get abducted by a UFO there, but we have got ourselves back up into normal conditions here as we've got ourselves a nice little battle to talk about here with Peter Maddox and Jeff Wubker currently duking it out for P23.
Yeah, Peter did. I mean, kind of hard to. He did a pretty good job of just keeping it off the racing line through 7. But at some point you're going to come across the racing line again. McConnell and Brewster did a really good job of just taking a little bit tighter line through 8 and giving it ahead as we're get some new features here. We've got our battle graphic here, best battles on track currently with Manzato versus Love, and now switching up to Murakami and Ian Anderson, the interval. So it's you can see the 3 closest battles are within 0.2 of a second of each other. So some really good battles out here on the track.
We got so many close battles going on that the graphic was having a slight panic attack, just trying to figure out which one was the best. They're all good. But I gotta say, speaking of good, that's a damn good graphic there. Well done, Guido, and the production truck for making that work. That is absolutely golden. As we look at some of the great battling that we have going on out there on the circuit. Ian Joyner, nice to see him come back here in the Formula 4 Weekend Warriors. He was an unstoppable force a matter of about 1 year ago here in the FFs. Was able to win a championship in the Spec 1 category. Occasionally does show up, and currently showing up in this race, slotted in 4th. He's switched his attention off to Spec Racer Ford that you'll be seeing a little bit later on here today on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We're going to ignore that voice crack, pretend that didn't happen. Ian Joyner, though, nice to see him out here on the racetrack, occasionally here in what we like to call his bread and butter cars. That right there is Ian Anderson and Chris Murakami trying to give me a panic attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Murakami working his way around, picking up that position over Anderson, but the battle still rages on as Anderson looking down to the inside of one, trying to make that cut around and just not enough. It's just so easy on the outside there. If you get a good run into the corner, you can really let the thing just kind of float wide and just pick up some momentum on your way out. And that's exactly what Murakami did to hang on to that position.
We continue to see the battling out there on the racetrack. It is going to be a very frenetic race. It's going to be a slightly scary one for these drivers, too. I think the nerves are going to be super, super high from the drop of the green all the way through to the fall. The checkered side-by-side battling going on. Josh Wilkie and Jason Chen, Alexander Gorson going to get involved in all that action as well as they're side-by-side heading down the hill off through turn number 10. Look at Chen trying to duke it out with Wilkie, your reigning Spec 2 champion, fighting with your current P2 racer in the Spec 2 category here today. Wilkie looking to get a good run and maybe challenge Dmitry Lukhanov, who ever since he joined the series at Sebring has been an unstoppable force, frankly. He's been able to put in some solid performances off the back of now 3 straight poles and 2 straight wins. So look at Lukhanov to impress once again here today.
Yeah, Lukhanov's having a good run, but Wilkie is up to P8. He's up 3 positions since the start, so he's been aggressive to try and make up the gap up to Lukhanov, and now it's just a gap of 1.3 seconds between those 2 drivers. And, you know, I'll go back to the top 5 is how I think that they're fuel saving, and my thought process is those are the only cars, with the exception of Richard Harwood, who haven't changed positions during the race. This is the top 5 as they started. They've basically just got the ball rolling and really have not done any kind of challenging for position changes since the start of the race. They're just content to ride around. As long as they stay in line and run good laps, they can able to make a little bit of a gap on the cars behind. As we do see the pit window is now open. Stevie Ray is in the pits. Antonio Reese came with them. So our first 2 cars to make pit stops are now in.
I love how Stevie is just our metric for all this. Whenever he comes in, we know that everybody is probably going to try and at least one driver is going to try and follow his call. Antonio being the other driver to do that here today. We'll have to see if anybody else is going to try and follow their lead over the next couple of laps and come down pit lane 2. We jump to this battle for P6 between Jörg Mani and your current Spec 2 leader of Dmitry Lukhanov as they head their way down off into the chicane. Mani looking to have a good run here today off the back of 2 straight wins in the Masters category. Jörg the Janitor was rather dominant a couple of seasons ago, but throughout the summer, a little bit sporadic in terms of his appearances. Here had some real-life stuff going on, which certainly not going to mind that one bit. Work and family always take precedence for the race car action on the weekends, but nice to see him out here on the racetrack running strong in P6 as David Lehman really able to break away from everybody else in that very I gotta say, that era of Williams, the white, the blue, and the yellow, absolutely awesome paint schemes back in the late 80s and early 90s before Rothmans came in to sponsor a little bit later on in the decade. But Lehman putting in a darn good drive. I think we have seen him occasionally in the past here in the FF Weekend Warriors, but not too often. Really nice to see him doing well in his first time really up there at the front in Masters.
Yep, having a good run today. Good start. Now he and Jörg Mani's coming into the pits along with Nick Sigley. Both those guys are coming in for the pit stops, so they've said this is enough. We're going to come on in now, get that out of the way, and then we'll get back out and do some racing. We'll say that Antonio Reese came back out in P26. He's got about a 22-second gap as we see a little bit of battling here amongst this group. That's Kevin Adrian, Alan DeGassis, Cesare Manzato leading this train here. And then just a host of different drivers, and you can see them just really scuffling around, trying to find a good line and seeing if they can pick up some positions here or there. But so far, it looks like they're standing pat. But you see lots of different racing lines being run here by this group.
seeing everybody experiment in terms of where the grip's going to be, where exactly they should go. These Formula Fords kind of, I would say they probably have the most amount of get up and go in the Weekend Warriors world. I mean, the Formula V's not very powerful. The Spec Racer Fords have a bit more power, but they have a bit more weight there as well. These Formula Fords probably have the most amount of acceleration out of any Weekend Warriors car, so you can see these racers get a little bit experimental, as we've had some big battles going on right now. Look at Kevin Adrian trying to make up some moves. That's Andrew Love trying to follow in soon and get that move done on Manzato. So they had their way off now into turn number 1 and 2. It was Alan Degassis, the first driver to get the move possible, and now the 4 really feeling some pressure from the 944, who no longer side by side with as they had their way off through the S's, but Manzato certainly going to be feeling the burn as this battle still continues to heat up with the drivers in front breaking away.
Yeah, that was a good battle there as Degassis kind of went in 7 and kind of opened the door for Adrian to come through as well. Manzato did a good job to just kind of fight the rest of the group off and settle back in there, third in line, but down in P12, so lost a couple of positions as we're on board there, and we're switching now back to this group as we've got Ian Anderson in the Iron Brew liveried car, a little bit deep in. I'm surprised he didn't get a slow down there for that one. Murakami coming into the pits, dropping off the back of this group. Is going to come in and take his pit stop now, and as well as Michael McConnell is going to come in and take his spot as well, his pit as well. It's going to leave Maddox and Brewster and Verone out there together, as it's still just battles all over the place around this track, and that's kind of what we expected. Just seeing how close everything was during qualifying, kind of expected this to be some pretty close battles on the track.
Yeah, we still got the closeness of it all. These drivers packed in like sardines up and down the running order, but the pit stops have broken it up a little bit. Jurg Mani, in his call to come down pit lane, give us a bit of a battle to talk about in Spec 2 as Dmitry Lukanov losing that sparring partner, losing that drafting partner too, has really lost out on some time now. 0.8 of a second between himself and Josh Wilkie for not just P6 on the racetrack, but for the lead in Spec 2. But they're not alone. Alexander Gorson running directly behind Josh Wilkie. You can see those two cars basically bump drafting as they had their way down off into turn number 1. A beautiful drift from Jason Chen right there in the back of Shaz. I'm talking about the battling right up in front. That's a driver coming out of the pits right in front of these racers. That's a terrifying prospect. We talked about the pit entry a little bit earlier on, but the pit exit here at Road Atlanta, not necessarily a bed of roses either.
No, absolutely not. I mentioned that as we see Michael Nelson with a black flag. And that's going to be wow. So pit speeding coming out. I think that was coming out of pit exit. So Nelson may have jumped the gun on pit exit and pit entry is what I'm hearing. Okay, so maybe that can't be from pit entry because he would have already had the service penalty.
Yeah, he was already down the pits at the current moment. So. Either way, Michael Nelson, no matter what the penalty may be, it's a penalty anyway, so that black flag going to be basically pepper spraying the eyes to Nelson in that 959 car. Christopher Cash has come down pit lane from the top 5. Richard Harwood going to join in that call as they do a little bit of investigative journalism here to see the racing, and Cesar Manzato has had a pretty wild affair as of racing. It was himself and Kevin Adrian duking it out, but as he got checked up there, contact being made with himself and Ian Anderson, and more drivers getting involved in all of that. Who was that with the clobbering?
Maybe, I'm not sure. Not
Maybe
sure who
Verone?
That was. Might have been Verone coming through. So yeah, Ian Anderson being very aggressive there, coming through 8. Cutting up the inside there on Manzato. They make contact, and then somebody coming through makes more contact. So not a great stretch there for Manzato. And we won't say penalty or not. I have no idea. But Josh Wilkie now in the pits. Well, he's going to give up that fight with Lukanov and go ahead and come in and take his pit stop.
And Lukanov setting a right tone there at the 5th lap of the race there. So pretty darn good stuff. Actually hearing as well from Guido in the production truck that much as Dmitry Lukanov set the quick lap, he was not alone in that, as I think it was Ian Joyner that set the exact same identical lap time there. Both of them at a 101.2. That is insane stuff. So you'll have to see the closeness. You'll have to see the action. I'm not sure they break it up there in terms of fast lap in the race. I guess they break it down into the 10,000ths of a second, I should say.
Yeah, apparently Lukanov does have the fastest lap by some decimal that we can't see. But once again, exact down to the hundredths on my timing screen. So yeah, definitely some very, very quick drivers. But now Joyner takes that away with a 101.06. So the lap times are starting to come down as the fuel in these cars are burning off.
Yeah, the fuel is slowly but surely dropping down. The cars are getting lighter, and that tie has now officially been broken. Ian Joyner cooking with gas at the moment, nearly breaking below the 101s. If we see a driver break into the 1 minute, that would be a darn good lap time indeed. If anyone's going to do it, though, it could very well be Ian Joyner as he's tailing Nazelli and Samoas. That's Chris Murakami. Contact with himself and Stevie Ray. Oh, that is not going to go too well. Murakami, a veteran here in the Weekend Warriors. I would not want to be a fly in the wall with that stewards meeting.
Yeah, well, Murakami's been around for a while, so I'm sure it's not the first time that he and Stevie have scrapped on track. But we did, as the leaders came through, I did see Stevie's car off and could not tell, what had happened. But that was a tough break, and Murakami just trying to get his car back on the track. And you see, when you have to deal with these curbs to try and get the cars relined, You just kind of take your chances, and the result was both Murakami and Stevie with Meatball. Stevie's already towed back to the pits. Murakami is back as well, getting his car serviced.
So that's very unfortunate for Stevie and Chris. They're putting together some nice drives in their own regard, but things going to be slightly derailed as we're officially past the halfway mark now. 23 minutes currently on the clock in this 40-minute long race as we look at this battling going on for 8th at the moment. It's Alan DeGassis, your current P2 runner in Masters, right in front of Kevin Adrian, your P3 runner in Spec 2. Ian Anderson rounding out your top 10 right now with Andrew Love rounding out this pack. We'll give some love to Ian Anderson, up 17 spots where he started in this race. Plenty of drivers going their way through the field like hot knife through butter, but Anderson top of the board as it stands currently, as Alexander Gorson in the 621 car has now come down pit lane. That's a pit stop from second in Spec 2. Will we see anybody else break away in suit? This does have the vibe of a race where the drivers are just going to be slowly trickling down a pit lane. We're not going to be seeing everybody come into the pits at the exact same time, as Ian Anderson gets another move done to jump his way now in front of Kevin Adrian.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll see how where Gorson comes out. Wilkie already pitting, so those cars were together earlier. So let's see if the undercut has helped Wilkie stay in front of Gorson or not. And obviously, it usually just comes down to, I'm going to say he's not, because Wilkie's stop was 23.5 stopped. Gorson's was 17.2. So Gorson should be safely out in front of Wilkie here as we get started, and that is the case. So it looks like it's about 8.5 seconds or so.
And Josh, I feel bad for the man. He gets struck by falling anvil after falling anvil in this race. Usually down to strategy. I'm not sure what his strategist is. I'm not sure who he's hired to do his strategy calls, but he should probably consider a penalty to be thrown his way for some of the interesting calls that come out of all that. Very tough stuff for Josh, as very slowed down in the pit stall, very slowed down in pit lane, just a huge kick in the shins generally. Jason Chen picked up a slowdown penalty out there on the racetrack, so that will drop him down a little bit as we still have these pit stops coming up soon. And now we wait to see whether or not these top three will come into the pits sooner rather than later, with only 14 and a half minutes left to go. Will they all come into the pits together? Will they all come in at separate times? Look at Nazelli. He's going to be the first to come down pit lane.
Interesting, Nazelli coming into the pits now, leaving Joyner and Samoa's out to the front. Got a back marker in front, so that's what Guido's saying is instead of trying to fight through the back markers, just come into the pits now. It's not a bad strategy. I think that might play out well for him. We'll see how well Samoa's and Joyner do in getting these lapped cars behind them as quickly as they can. Also, DeGass is in. Peter Maddox is in the pits as well. And then we had Adrian came out 4 seconds behind Wilkie. So that was a 3-car battle that I think with Gorson, Wilkie, and Adrian at some point. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was not. That was Jason Chin. So Jason Chin still hasn't pitted. Lukanov still hasn't pitted, and we'll see how that shapes up. Obviously, Josh Wilkie down in P18. And Gorson is running currently in 14th as he's getting down the front straight and moving past some of the cars who are in the pits now.
Yeah, so the pit stop's still going on. We don't have the best idea as to how the whole field is going to shake out with right now Paul Jackson has yet to come down pit lane, currently slotted in at 12th, as well as the top 9. All of them have yet to come into the pits in their own right. Was going to add Tortolo to that list, but slap on the forehead there. He's been out of the race for the past 15 laps, so he's down in the pits currently. Not gonna have to take tires, as he already had some pretty bad damage on that car. Took him out of the race just period, as Jim Brewster and Daniel Verone, the latest to come down pit lane.
Yep, and pit stops are continuing. They'll get through. Paul Jackson will move past, I believe, these 2 cars that are pitting now, and move into the top 10. So we've got basically the 8 of the top 10 have still yet to pit. That includes the top 7. So we've still got a few more pit stops to go. And, as usual, we're looking probably between 30 and 32 minutes for the final stops. Maybe, can't tell, with those guys up front, maybe doing some fuel saving, maybe can stretch a little bit longer, but probably not too many extra laps there, maybe another 1 or 2 laps before they have to make their stop in. So we'll keep an eye on that. So as we have Lukanov now in the pits from the Spec 2 lead, Love in the pits now was running in P2 in Masters. So that leaves Lehman out there as one of the cars still yet to pit. So top 5 yet to pit, along with Paul Jackson running in P10.
Yeah, so just waiting on. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say waiting on deck to see the rest of the drivers come down pit lane.
Yeah, and as I said, that Paul Jackson came into the pits for his stop. So now it's just the top 5.
Yeah, so pretty much everybody has got their pit stops taken care of, but the stops that we have left, as per usual, are going to be the most important ones, with the top running racers all coming into the pits soon here, as Jason Chen will be the latest to break away. He comes into the pits from 4th place in this race. The driver who won Spec 2 in a rather comfortable fashion has been all right thus far here in Spec 1 this season. A quick little heads up to anyone who's just tuning into the Weekend Warriors for the very first time. There has been a shift in the way that these drivers are classed. Different system going to place these drivers in different categories. However, how it used to go is that any driver below 3,500 on iRating was put into Spec 2. Well, anybody over 3,500 was put into Spec 1. Jason Shen has been able to put in some darn good drives over the past year in the Weekend Warriors, a driver who I first got acclimatized here in this series, but I have seen him run in the Formula Ford officials as well. Very good racer. We'll have to see if he can break through and maybe score a potential overall top 5 or maybe even an overall podium as a Spec 1 racer here in that series, in that class for the very first time, as we had a monumental battle there with Cesar Manzanto trying to get some moves done on the likes of Jim Brewster and Jeff Wubker. Brewster and Wubker currently battling as top 3, all coming down pit lane. It's Samoa's, Joyner, and David Lehman all coming into the pits at the around about the same time.
Yep, so 30-minute mark. They're all into the pits now. So that's the final cars yet to pit. And you forgot to mention, obviously, the Masters class, which has nothing to do with iRating. It's simply drivers over age 60. So the old guys, the old guard, those are your Masters drivers, and they can be any iRating, which is why you see the likes of Antonio Reese and Jorg Monty up there. Antonio 4.5K and Jorg's a 6K driver. So what we got here is we got.
Oh,
so
boy.
We're going to get a replay here. This is Samoa's and Joyner coming out, and side by side coming out of pit exit. That's
how the hell do they make that work?
Just hanging on through there. with Chris Cash coming right up behind them. But great battles there, and so great stops by Samoas. Cash is moving down, taking over P2, and passing Joyner there, and they've got obviously Naselli right in tow. So those are your top four. That'll be the battle for the race win and all the podium positions overall when we get down here with about 8.5 minutes left to go.
Yeah, and what a battle it was coming on the pit exit. We talked about the pit exit a little bit earlier on. This is an old school track. It was open all the way back in 1970, and even though it has had some alterations and modifications made over the years to make it more suitable for modern motorsports, that is still an old school, very narrow pit exit. So the fact that Felix Mose and Ian Joyner were able to go through there side by side not only speaks to the driving talent, those who have the respect that they have for their competitors, but the stones they have as well to say, yeah, let's go side by side heading out of the pit exit here at Road Atlanta. Why not? That'll just be fun. But in all of that, Samoas has been able to pull out about a 3 to 4/10 of a second gap to himself and Christopher Cash. Ian Joyner running right behind those. So this battle for the race lead still far from over. And usually when we have these pit stops taken care of, only have about five-ish minutes left. Not the case here today. We have still got the final 6.5 minutes of racing action left to go here, and we've already had a couple of laps out of the pits. So this battle for not only the win, but for the overall podium, still going to be intense in the run-up to the end.
Oh yeah. This is it's just going to get hotter and more intense as we go, as we bleed the last few laps off here. Obviously, you're only talking about a half-second difference between these four cars. From first to fourth, and they're really starting to pick up the pace now. You see them starting to really push the corners, push the exits a bit more, and we'll get these run down. We'll see if Cash is going to move. He's already looking to the inside.
Yeah, and Christopher Cash trying to make something work here as that's a spin from Richard Harwood. He's got to get overtaken by Alan DeGassis with that moment heading off through the start of the S's at the top of the hill. Through 2, 3, and 4, he spins around. And let's take a look to see exactly how this all went down for him. You can see him running right behind Ian Anderson at the time as he ran wide out of turn number 1. Already set himself up for disaster. Loses out on P14 to Kevin Adrian. Rejoins the racetrack, but kept the grass on the tires and spins shortly thereafter. Very easy mistake to make, to be sure. Adds into the importance of turn number 1, because if you get any dirt on your tires, it's going to make the following handful of turns even more challenging than they already are, as we look at Christopher Cash and a replay to see him trying to give hell to Felix Samoas, and was able to do it successfully. Jumps into the race lead. He goes, and that right there is the race lead for Christopher Cash that he still holds on to at the current moment. But this game of leapfrog still far from over, as Felix Samoas now going to try and be the leaper. Cash going to be the leapee, and there we go. Samoas jumps his way back up into the race lead as Ian Joyner still close there as well.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's going to happen again the next 5 laps or so as we come around for another lap. This is going to be lap 35 of the race, and it just seems like they're just going to start getting these leapfrogs, especially coming down into turn 7, as we're seeing that battle still picking up. We get a battle here between Alexander Gorson moving ahead of Jorg Monty, taking over P8. Able to get that move made. Monty looking still on the outside there of 2. Was trying to sneak alongside, would give him a little bit of better line going into 3, but backs out of it and decides to stay in P9 for the time being. Cash with a little blink there. There's a little lag there and blinked out, but is back and still running there in P2. Not quite close enough to make a move here. But Joyner is going to try and make a move to take over P2 right here in turn 7 and makes it happen. So great job there. Joyner up to second, Cash down to third. Naselli still sitting there in 4th.
And all of that with Christopher Cash briefly blinking in and out there. Guido said in the production truck that he got abducted. I don't like the fact that the sayings that I say on these broadcasts are slowly becoming part of Weekend Warriors vernacular. In fact, I even said to our old pal, Chairman Meow, Mr. Adam Thompson, if his baby's first words were falling anvil, that I would resign from broadcasting effective immediately and go into the family business of becoming a butcher like my grandfather did. But thankfully, we have avoided that, at least for now. now. Stay tuned, folks. For the next year, we'll get our answer sooner rather than later. But in all that battling, Ian Joyner decided, you know what? I want to be the one to try and win this race. It's been a little while since Ian Joyner won here in the Formula 4 Weekend Warriors, and wants to try and get the W here today as we take a look right in front of Jeff Wobker, who's going to spin in sympathy to a near spin involving Daniel Verone and Cesar Manzato as they headed their way off through turns number 7 and 8. He avoids making any further contact, but a spin for sure as we see the moment from Verone. Went for a last-minute dive, contact being made, and Manzato having to take a rally trip off into the dirt, and Jim Brewster got to say, thank you very much. I'll take those spots, and in all that drama, wasn't able to jump in front of Manzato, was able to hold on to that P18 spot, but Brewster was able to scythe his way through all of that and jump his way up into P19. So well done to Jim, as he's currently on track for a P7, P6. He can't do math in the Masters category.
Yeah, having a good run as back on board this lead group. That was going to say from Verone, that was a overly optimistic move down into turn 7. He just saw maybe Manzato broke a little bit more than he thought he needed to, and so he was going to just release the brakes and make the move down, and it just didn't work out.
Right as I was talking about, Cesar Manzato able to hold on to it. He wasn't able to hold on to that, and he's picked up a black flag in that as well. So Manzato, things going from bad to worse, even worse still, as he had a first-class view of Michael McConnell and Peter Maddox crashing into each other. Airborne went one of them, and that's going to take the both of them out of contention. Meanwhile, Ian Joyner's been able to jump into the race lead. He's side by side with Felix Samoa as it stands at the current moment, and they were right behind in all this drama as well. Very lucky that incident got self-sorted out before these drivers arrived at the scene of that accident. But Ian Joyner able to jump up to the front of the field as that chaos went on off through the mid-sector. We'll take a look and let you know how Joyner was able to get it done. It wasn't a move down to the chicane. It was a gutsy move down into turn number 1. Look at Samoa trying to hold his own around the outside. That's a tough ask, trying to keep it side by side through there, but he was able to do it quite nicely. Just lost down the braking zone down through 2 into 3 and 4, but that was a gutsy move from Joyner to grab the race lead.
It was, and it was a good move down into 1. He was able to stay on the inside line and just hold and keep his foot in it, as we have now Verone and Manzato with black flags, and that's going to be for incident limit. So they'll have to come out and serve the drive-through, and they need to get that done because it's a 40-second penalty. Otherwise, I think Manzato's down there now just serving his. Verone needs to do the same thing, and we're going to be, I think, white flag next time by. So Joyner sitting here in the catbird seat, but Samoa's, Cash, and Naselli are all sitting there. And Naselli really hasn't done anything to try and move up in the order. So I'm wondering if this is going to be the lap where he starts trying to make a charge.
Yeah, this upcoming lap is the last opportunity he'll have to make a charge, as a white flag is in the air next time by. So one more lap of racing action. Ian Joyner comes across the line here in about 30 seconds time. Yeah, you can see that lap traffic a little bit farther up the road. May try and force this issue a little bit. How do you try and deal with this lap traffic if you are Ian Joyner? Will you have to deal with that lap traffic if you are Ian Joyner? Looking at the gaps from those cars a little bit farther up the road, you just got to pray that they don't come to blows. With 15 seconds left on the clock, the white flag in the air. One more lap of racing action. Ian Joyner trying to break that slipstream like a madman as Samoa's contact being made with Naselli and Cash, as Samoa's through the block on Cash, and that's going to end in Naselli spearing off the track with damage on that car. Huge consequences in the championship. There's been some more drama a little bit farther up the road. Somebody's hit the wall. Christopher Cash has dropped down like a stone thrown into a pond. Ian Joyner able to come out of this, smelled like a bed of roses, and really nothing that he did to cause that, as everything just broke out right behind. Brinton Naselli very lucky that Mikey Pollard, his main championship rival, is not here this week. That's going to be a huge kick in the shins for him in the championship points, as he's going to be walking away with a very poor result indeed. We look at some battling going a little bit further behind. Christopher Cash in a wounded race car, maybe going to have to fight for his life with P3, maybe making contact as well with himself and Dmitry Lukanov. Ian Joyner on track for the win here at Road Atlanta. Felix Samoa's going to come home in P2, but bravo to Dmitry Lukanov, your Spec 2 winner, going to grab a podium in all of that drama and all the chaos. Jason Jason Chen, a wonderful drive from him, walks away with fourth. Christopher Cash going to finish in P5. David Lehman wins it in the Masters category in one of the most dramatic last laps I think we've seen in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors in quite many years.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it was going to be at the end of the last lap, but it happened at the beginning of last lap. If we're going to get a replay, we should take a look at this. And a great job by Joyner to just get out front, as we see here. And it's just contact, almost maybe net code there between Samoas and Cash, and then obviously nowhere for Nazelli to go. He just happened to be the innocent bystander that got caught up in that. But very tight racing up there at the beginning, at the front of the field. And we had a car coming back on. I think that might have been Verone. Was that Verone coming out?
Oh,
yeah.
Verone and Jackson.
Just contact, and just Paul Jackson being there as well as those cars, as Verone was coming, just serving his drive-through, coming back out on the track and just making contact there, not really seeing Jackson on the racing line. And Jackson probably not seeing him either, to be fair, because it's kind of blind on the inside of one because of the pit wall. So, just some really, really dynamic battles there on the last lap, and good racing by all the drivers. Very, very tough circuit, very tight racing for the entire 40 minutes. So good job as we found the jump, so to speak, taking the old line down at the end of the backstretch, up the hill through the gravel, and into the bridge wall.
A bridge, actually, that is solid, funnily enough. And Charles and I learned that lesson many, many moons ago on a broadcast over on another network. And that was rather fast. I got to say, though, in all that drama, before we head off into the results in just a couple of moments' time, Daniel Verone nearly handed the race win to Felix Samoa. Actually, I say that Felix Samoas and Ian Joyner were running right alongside each other, like nose to tail, when Verone had that drama with Paul Jackson right in front of them, and he was rejoining the racetrack. Joyner and Samoas had to take evasive action, and that very well could have ended an absolute catastrophe. Who knows, if that worked out a little bit differently, we could have had a Spec 2 overall race winner here today, but we didn't. Instead, it was Ian Joyner returning to victory lane here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors for the first time in quite some time. He gets the win over Felix Samoa, slotted in P2. Dmitry Lukhanov will round out your podium in third, winning in the Spec 2 category in the process. Jason Chen will finish this race in fourth, right in front of Christopher Cash in fifth. David Lehman is classed in P6, winning in the Masters category, with Jörg Monty classed in P7. Alexander Gorson will be classed in P8 at the end of this race. Nick Sigley will finish in ninth. Antonio Reese rounds out your top 10.
Yep, Josh Wilkie gets the final step of the S2 podium, finishing in 11th. Maurizio Naselli with the last lap crash, finishing in 12th, so still getting some decent points today. Ian Anderson finishes 13th, Kevin Adrian 14th, Andrew Love finishes 15th, Alan DeGassis in 16th, 17th is Richard Harwood, P18 is Jim Brewster, Jeff Wupker finishing in 19th, Peter Maddox finishes in 20th, Cesare Manzato finishing in 21st, Michael Nelson 22nd, Daniel Verone finished 23rd, Paul Jackson 24th, Michael McConnell finishing in 25th, Chris Murakami 26th, Stevie Ray 27th, Tortolo finishing in 28th, Soren Garrett's with the lap 1 crash finishing in 29th, and Dan Witzak not taking the start of the race will be classified in 30th.
And so those are your results from this race. Round number 5 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, won by Ian Joyner. We'll get the opportunity to have a chat with him here in just a couple of moments' time. Do want to once again thank the sponsor of today's broadcast, Brad Cathcart, making this show possible today here on SMB. And if you are at all interested in sponsoring a Formula Ford Weekend Warriors broadcast, you can get in touch with Mr. Stevie Ray by joining the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server linked here onto the SMB YouTube channel. Get in touch and put your name on this absolutely awesome racing. But we've got the opportunity to have a chat with our race winner, Ian Joyner, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Ian, welcome in. Congratulations on the win, returning to victory lane here in the FF Weekend Warriors. How was it out there? Oh, Ian, you got a copy? So you're muted here on Discord.
Yeah, my bad.
There we go. Oh, don't worry, happens.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's good race. Good little track. Yeah, Yeah, I basically did this week because I wanted to watch the Grand Prix, and I had a very good run with the SRS anyway, so I thought I'd come back out for the FFs tonight. So I hadn't done it for a little while, but it was fun. Getting up to speed again in it, and it's quite a good race as usual. Lots of sort of patience. Worked out well at the end. Had a fun race with Felix through the pits. And then, just the last lap was just a bit unfortunate behind, and then a little scary coming on up the. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but there's a couple of people collided in front of us. Could have ended very suddenly. Managed to. I went a little bit early, I think on the second or third to last lap, but just managed to hang on to it with a little bit of help from the traffic.
Now, I want to ask you about that last lap, because just the absolute madness going on right behind you. What was the thought process seeing, I think it was Nazelli went up in the air, seeing, I think it was Daniel Varone nearly collide with you as you headed your way out of one. I can't even imagine how the nerves were on that last lap, even though you didn't have the pressure of a challenge from behind. It still had to have been a little bit terrifying as an end to this race.
Yeah, I mean, you never really want to see anyone crashing, but when it's behind you and it's your competitors, it's not the worst feeling in the world going into the last lap. But the one in front was a lot more concerning, though. I don't know. I didn't want to get swamped by Felix. I think Felix was a bit more cautious than me. I was sort of cautious. I'm just looking at it again now on the replay. I don't think I even got an X from it, but yeah, it could have gone very wrong. I'm not sure who it was. 2-on-2 car. Yeah, Daniel was. He's just spinning, wasn't he? So I think he had his brakes on, but the momentum was just taking him across the track. So yeah, worked out this time. But yeah, that was definitely the brown trouser moment.
Yeah, a little bit terrifying towards the end, but still you walk away with the win. But I want to ask you about next week's race, running at Rodskogen. Are you going to be here for the FFs next time, Matt? And if so, what are your thoughts out there?
I'm pretty sure I'll be back in SRFs because it's Interlagos, isn't it? And I love that track. Rodskogen's it's kind of good fun. It is in these cars because of the long corners. You just get relentless squealing from the tyres because the tyres are just absolutely hammered all the way around it. But it's a fun track. It's quite a fun track to race as well. So, but yeah, I think I'm probably going to be back out in the SRFs next week. See if I can. The one thing I was happy about is I didn't completely screw the pit stop up today. So, see if I can translate that into SRF.
And there you go, those pit stops, falling anvils avoiding you here today, Ian. But as per usual, at the end of this interview, we'll let you give the thanks and shout-outs before we let you go and celebrate the win.
Yeah, shout out to Stevie in the series. As usual, fun race. Back in the FFs tonight, and of course you guys.
And thank you as well for joining us here in the booth, Ian. Well done on the win, and looking forward to seeing you out there with the Spec Racer Fords next week at Interlagos.
Cheers, see you there.
That right there was Ian Joyner joining us here in the broadcast booth. And Charles, I will let you have a chat with Jason Shen, our reigning Spec 2 champion, and P4, I should say, finisher at the end of today.
Yeah, absolutely. Just bring Jason in. Jason, hey, congratulations. So finished P4 overall, but by nature of Dmitry Lukanov finishing in third and getting the Spec 2 class victory, you get P3 in the S1 class. So I think this is your first podium since moving up to S1. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I joined as I saw that nobody else really joined the interview area. So in case you guys wanted to fill the time a bit.
Absolutely, it's always good to talk with you, Jason, for sure.
Thank you. So it was haven't had a good season this season so far up until this race. It was from my perspective, it was after lap 1, I gained 2 positions on lap 1. And then the rest of the race, I would just focus on saving fuel. Because I had another league, actually, that ran the same track on Thursday. And there was just someone in that, so Angel, he raced, I think, last time at Okayama or something. So we were in the league race, and I just could not shake him because the draft was so strong. and we were very similarly paced, but like he would just try to basically, like, I could not clear him. So so I thought for today's race, since there's a pit stop also and the draft is really strong, it's probably better to not fight and then just try to save fuel and get a quicker pit stop and then try to jump some people or gain some time that way. And yeah, that's pretty much what I did. It still had to save fuel all the way to the end. I only put in 6 liters. I think safe is like 8 liters for my fuel usage. And yeah, the last the shorter pit stop allowed me to catch up to Dimitri again. He was, I don't know, maybe 3-4 seconds ahead of me before the pit stop. Like, we kind of lost his draft towards the end of the first stint. So I kind of closed that back down. And David Lehman, but when I first came out of pits, I was like a second and a half behind Dimitri, so I wasn't in his draft. But then the next lap, David Lehman pitted and then came out in the gaps to bridge the gap and then allow me to close back up on Dimitri. But the whole time I was trying to push to stay in the draft, and once I was in the draft, I was trying to just feel safe. And I don't know why David just let me through on one of the laps. I wasn't really looking to challenge him at that point. Yeah, I was still needing to save fuel. I had to save fuel to the end, all the way to the end, and I crossed the line with 0.23 liters left. Looking at my Garage 61. Yeah. It looked like there was some shenanigan in the lead pack on the final lap.
Yep, for sure.
And I got Christopher Cash in the final chicane on like a switchback because he was going side by side through there with Dimitri. But I was like on the exit of the switchback, I was thinking, because I knew my fuel was already around the point where it would splutter normally, so I was thinking that if I suddenly start spluttering and he doesn't expect it, we could like crash or something. But somehow the engine kept going all the way till the line. Yeah,
maybe because we were pointed downhill, it just kind of fed the fuel a little easier for you.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, maybe that's
to fill in the gaps for you. Your overall pit time was almost 4 seconds faster than Dimitri, so you did gain quite a bit of time on him during the pit cycle. So that was well done. It's one of those that you really need to practice the pit entry, because it's not the most straightforward pit stop to make. So you did a good job there. And Samoa's Cash had contact, and then Cash had more contact with Naselli in the front group, which is why those guys just kind of dropped off the pace a bit. So you had a really good run, up 6 positions overall to finish off the day and get the P4. So I'm sure that's got to give you a little bit of confidence going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I had something else pop into my mind, but I forgot what it was.
Well, we got Rootscogan next week, so how are you feeling about that? It's one of those tracks that we go to it, and it's sometimes it's a really good race, and then sometimes it's not so great a race.
Yeah, I think I might be okay there, but it might be some of the turns will be tricky if you try to overtake there. So I'm not sure. I might it might be better from my perspective to just again like run like kind of try to fight as least as possible till after the pit stop. Try to save fuel in the first half. It might be a good strategy for most tracks, considering how strong the draft is.
Yep, absolutely. So Jason, once again, congratulations on your first podium in Spec 1, and we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs and let you go and have a good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you guys for broadcasting the race, and thanks to Rad Cathcart for sponsoring the race.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks to Stevie for hosting the series. Yeah, that's everything.
All right, Jason. We'll see. Are you going to be in the Spec Racer race coming up?
No, negative.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll see you next week in the Formula Fords at Rudskogen.
Yeah, I'll see you then.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And that right there was Jason Shen, who I may have dragged at mid-word there from the commentary booth, but he was your P4 finisher at the end of this race overall. But Charles, pretty wild one here at Road Atlanta for round number 5, but Rudskogen next time out, probably going to be another wild one too.
Yeah, I think so. It's just one of those tracks that kind of brings a different flavor when we go there. And then sometimes we have really good racing, and sometimes not as great. But anytime we get a chance to get together with the Weekend Warriors and the Formula Fords, we're gonna have fun for a good hour of broadcast and racing. So we'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of action to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting week in and week out. And a reminder, folks, if you would like to sponsor this series, you can by getting in contact with Mr. Stevie Ray by joining the SMB Discord server. We've got a lot of stuff to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting in the week that lies ahead. This upcoming Tuesday, we've got the season finale for American Muscle Series running at the Charlotte Oval. Yes, the Oval, not the Roval. SRG F4 action going to be at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for round number 6 of the season. Ferrari Road Oval Challenge action at Michigan International Speedway. SRG F3 action at the Hungaroring. Then, of course, next weekend we have got you covered with the Formula V's running on Saturday at Magny Cours, the FF 1600s running at Rudskogen, and the Spec Racer Fords running at Interlagos, along with XSLR returning at Lanier for round number 7 of their season with the big block modifieds running on the dirt version of the track that is literally right across the road from Road Atlanta here. But as for this broadcast for round number 5 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here at Road Atlanta, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.